Hey, Carrie, you there?
Oh, yes, sorry, I had to grab my laptop charger.
No problem. The experiment in first-time chairmanship here. So if I want to share documents, you as the host can give me access to do that?
Yeah, I already made you a co-host.
Okay, great. I had invited Chuck here tonight, but he is teaching at UMass, so he can't make it. Hello, John. So it's 7:01. I could call this meeting to order because for just general purposes, we only need 2 out of 3. But I'm going to wait a second, see if Mary comes on. John, you were still muted. Unmute. It's a little, there you go.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I'm pretty versed in this, Jeff. I'm multitasking here.
Okay, good.
I was just saying that I saw Mary check in very late with a thank you regarding the information that you sent. So she's well aware.
Yep. So we have Carrie here.
Yeah, and I've not met Carrie before.
Hello.
Hi, Carrie.
She's the land use clerk, and she serves the planning board, our zoning board, and the conservation commission.
Yeah, I noted that. Busy girl.
Very.
I think the Concom keeps her most busy.
Oh my goodness.
We should go there.
More than imagine.
Well, thank you for what you do.
Oh, thank you.
All right. We'll give it another minute or two here.
Sure. I'll make a note while we're waiting, Jeff, that I did go onto the Shutesbury site and found the zoning bylaws.
Okay.
All 88 pages of them. And I will endeavor to print those out and spend some time reading them thoroughly and with great vigor.
Yeah, there are there are particular sections that we focus on.
Yeah.
It's certain, like the whole solar part.
Mhm.
Might as well not even read that because we don't do those. The wireless communication, we don't do that. We don't do Article 5. There's a lot of things we don't do. That's just the job of the planning board.
Mhm.
So yeah, I'll talk a little bit about what we do.
That'd be great.
Part. Yeah.
Yeah. If I can, find a way to expedite the reading of that, that'd be good.
Yeah.
I sent Mary David a email of just the join link if she was having trouble joining.
Carrie, do you do another job in addition to all the roles that you play for the town?
And do I have another job at Shutesbury or like another
Or,
job in town?
anywhere. Yeah.
Oh, so I actually live in Westfield,
Okay.
like Western Mass. So I actually do have another job. It's just a restaurant job at the moment.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So one more to the list of things you do, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, I see.
There's Mary.
I see 3 out of 3 members. That means we have a quorum. So I'm gonna open the meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals at 7:06 p.m. And so welcome aboard, everybody.
Yeah.
I'll preface the agenda by saying I've been on these boards, planning board for 24 years, zoning board for, I don't know, 10 or 12. By design, I've never been the chair. I prefer not to run meetings. I prefer to be a technical person. And hopefully I can lapse back into that role at some point. We'll see. Somebody who's good with Robert rules and running meetings, I urge them to step forward. But for now, I'll be the chair. A zoning board also has to have a clerk by law. And so the last time the former ZBA met, I was elected both chair and clerk. Clerk doesn't mean anything really because Carrie is the clerk, but we always
You're frozen, Jeff.
have to have somebody designated as a clerk. Actually had functions to do, but Carrie does all that now. So for right now, if there's no objection, I'll continue as chair and clerk. Chair in fact, clerk in name.
Okay.
So
Objection.
I put a little agenda together tonight. It's a bare bones agenda. These are the things we always seem to have on our ZBA meetings. We can change this up, of course, over time. But call to order, public comment, if there is any. There sometimes is, but I see no one else here from the public. And then there's education and guidance. That is often landowners, homeowners, people will come and ask us questions about zoning, about a project they're thinking about, what kind of permitting they have to go through, and we answer those questions. That was usually my function before on the zoning board. Then we have actual agenda items. Tonight it's just zoning board of appeals organizational matters. And we can make of that what we will. We don't have any cases, so that we won't be doing any actual work, and then adjournment. So I will pass over public comment because I don't see anyone from the public here other than board members, and I will pass over education and guidance because I don't see anyone here seeking that. So now we're on to zoning board organizational matters. And in prep for that, I sent you both a couple of documents that I had prepared. I can't remember when I did the 5 functions of the zoning board or who I did it for. But that's what zoning boards do. Those 5 things which are described there. And that's, I think 4 out of 5 of those are in law. We have to do them. And 1 is something we do because it's assigned to us in our zoning bylaw. So just briefly, the first one is site plan review. That is a simple review process that we do without a public hearing. The applicant just comes to us and we discuss it, ask questions, maybe go on a field visit, usually we do. And then we can either approve it with conditions, or deny it. We generally don't deny them. We can usually condition them to be satisfactory. So that's a pretty simple review. And that's because our zoning bylaw has assigned those things to us. And there's a use table, and you can see which things get site plan review from us. If you go to the use table up in the front of the zoning bylaw. Next is special permits. Special permits are defined in law in the Zoning Act, the State Zoning Act. Planning Board does some special permits, like for a solar field, they do the special permit. For some kind of work that's proposed down at the lake to renovate or rebuild an existing structure, we would do the special permit. Sort of the general rule of thumb and how all these things are divided by the 2 boards is the planning board does the big stuff. They do the subdivisions, they do the shared driveways, the solar, wind projects, wireless communication towers, things that involve a lot of land, and larger projects are the bailiwick of the planning board. We do the smaller stuff, which usually involves a single residence for the most part. The next thing, I don't have the list right in front of me, but the next thing is probably zoning variances on that list.
Yep.
And that is an application that can be made by a landowner who wishes to do something not in accordance with the zoning bylaw. Like, say, the frontage requirement is 250 feet and they only have 248 or something like that. We actually may get this case. and so they ask us to waive the 250 and accept 248. So that would require a zoning variance. We're deviating from a dimensional requirement in our zoning. Zoning variances are also in law, and the state law is very specific on what you can and can't do with the zoning variance. We don't have nearly the discretion that we do in a special permit. So if we ever get one of these, and we don't do them very often, I'll draw your attention to that part of the state law that we have to be looking at. Most of what we do are the first 2 things. So zoning variance, I can't even remember the last one we did. The next one I think I have on there is appeals from decisions of the building inspector. And that's how we get our name. We're the Zoning Board of Appeals. Our building inspector is the zoning enforcement officer in town. He's the one that makes decisions about things. In the 10 or 12 years I've been on the Zoning Board of Appeals, we've done one of these. And it was a landowner in town in Shutesbury that had a dog training and agility facility at their house on their land. And a neighbor complained to the building inspector that this was a commercial use that wasn't allowed or needed a special permit to be allowed. And the building inspector issued a cease and desist to this landowner. The landowner appealed to us, and we had a hearing, as we're supposed to do. We heard from the building inspector, we heard from the landowner, we gathered facts, we visited the site, and we determined that it was not a commercial use, that it was a hobby. It was a fairly involved hobby, but it was a hobby nonetheless. So we actually reversed the building inspector and allowed the use to proceed. So we can either support the building inspector and uphold the decision, or we can reverse it. And in this one case that we did, we reversed the building inspector.
Mm-hmm. And may I ask a question, Jeff?
Yeah.
So why was it that the building inspector was the first line of approach by the landowner? Why not just come directly to the zoning board?
Well, the use was happening. They had set up this whole obstacle course, and they had dog kennels and different things down there. So the neighbor correctly filed a complaint with the zoning enforcement officer, who is the building inspector.
I see.
We're not the zoning enforcement officer.
Got it.
The building inspector is. So the building inspector said, "Oh, this looks commercial to me."
Got it.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Is Jim Hawkins still? Or okay. Yeah.
So, like I say, variances very seldom. Only one appeal in the last 10 or 12 years. And then we've never done one of these. The last one, the number 5, is what's called 40B, the state's affordable housing law. And Shutesbury does not have 10% of its housing stock in affordable housing. And affordable housing means it's affordable to those earning 80% or less of the median income, the area median income. We don't have that. We have very few places that qualify as affordable housing. So someone could come in with a project under Chapter 40B. And what that allows you to do is, without getting variances, you can apply for all kinds of waivers from zoning. Frontage, area, other requirements that would normally apply can be waived. And this is a consolidated process that by law comes to the Zoning Board of Appeals. And we assume the functions of a number of other local boards, including especially the planning board. So we become the permitting center for this entire project. And it comes to us. I've never participated in one of these. If we do, it's going to be, we're going to learn about it, and we're going to learn. We have to learn pretty quickly if one comes in. But anyway, I've never seen one. I've heard about it, and I know where it goes on appeal. It goes to a special court. But anyway, it's mostly the first two that we are going to be doing: site plan reviews and special permits.
Jeff, well, I just wanted to ask again with the last one, the moderate income housing, that function. That seems like such a natural one for the planning board. Why is that one, which seems like it could be really complicated, be one that comes under the purview of the zoning board first?
I'm not exactly sure, but that's the way the statute is written.
Okay.
I mean, probably because so many zoning waivers are are going to be requested and negotiated. And the Zoning Board of Appeals dealing with variances is, in theory, used to dealing with zoning waiver issues.
Mm-hmm.
In variances, we have a whole lot of authority
Mm-hmm.
to deny. In 40Bs, we don't, where our hands are really tied.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But they decided we were the best board for it. So in every town in the Commonwealth, it would come to the zoning board.
Okay. Oh, I see. Okay. Thank you.
So just in my time on the Zoning Board of Appeals, I'll tell you the three things that we've done the most of, almost exclusively. Two types of site plan review. One is for a solar ground-mounted solar installation in somebody's backyard to serve their home. And that comes to the zoning board for a site plan review and approval, mostly just to avoid sticking those things in the face of a neighbor.
Mm-hmm.
So we have the ability to make site adjustments if necessary, so that it's not too visible from the street or from a neighboring property. And that's really what we do in those. And we've done quite a few of them. The second type is certain provision in our zoning bylaw allows people to put attached or detached non-habitable accessory structures. These are often sheds, barns, garages, other types of things that are not habitable within the lot setback. So it can be closer to the lot line than normally is required.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a front setback, a side setback, a rear setback in all of our zones. And this allows an accessory structure to go as close as right up to the property line. And again, it's site plan review. We look at it. We look at it, especially in terms of how it might affect neighbors, having that close to the property line. I know we've done them at the lake. We've done them all over the place. And we do a lot of them.
Wouldn't that fall under special permit if it's outside of normal boundaries and so forth?
Not under our zoning. We wrote a special provision that, oh, excuse me. Am I wrong? I am wrong. Hold on. John, you just stumped the professor here. Hold on.
Not my intention, Jeff.
No, it's you're right. It is. Non-habitable detached or attached accessory structures which cannot meet the setback requirements may be allowed by special permit from the Zoning Board of Appeals. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Have you been reading?
I have not. That was just a lucky guess.
That's a good one. So yeah, in this, and it makes sense too, because there would be a public hearing that would go along here, and the abutters would all be notified, and they could show up at the public hearing and testify either in favor, or they could say, no, this is too close to my property. I'm going to see it. I really don't want it there. And we would have to weigh all that. Mm-hmm. So that is a special permit. You're right.
Okay.
And the last thing we do, and this is by far, it can be controversial. It can be all kinds of stuff. And it has to do with making, with remodeling, reconstructing, expanding, adding to, doing things to mostly single family dwellings that are lawfully non-conforming. And almost all of this is at the lake. And Mary's familiar with it. She's seen these type of cases. You had one right across from you, so you know what that process is a little bit like. So a lawfully non-conforming structure, like many of them at the lake, are structures that were built a long time ago. And at the time they were built, they were lawful under whatever zoning rules and regulations we had at the time. And they, in state law and in our bylaws, are protected. And they can do certain things to them, make them larger, reconstruct them, bump them out, do this and that, subject to a determination that we need to make through a special permit process, that what they're proposing is not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than what's there to begin with. Mm-hmm. So it's a judgment call. One of these got very heated and very difficult a year or two ago. With many of them, we negotiate a bit with the landowner. We always do a field visit. We may change the plans a little bit, influence them. We might add some conditions. But every case is different. They're almost all at the lake. And the reason is because all those lots are undersized. They're way undersized. They probably have 50 feet or 60 feet of frontage instead of the 250. Many of the structures don't meet the setbacks, front, side, or even the rear. So that brings them to us. Mm-hmm. And we have hearings, and often people show up. Butters show up, give testimony, sometimes favorable, sometimes unfavorable.
Yeah.
So again, it's a special permit, and out of all the things we do, those cases will involve the most effort.
That last one, Jeff, given that these structures were built under lawful prescriptions, and now by definition, some of the things that are desired are not lawful. So it's not in the bylaws to do what they want to do. It's all discretionary on the part of the three of us sitting here. We just kind of come up with judgment calls, or what guides us in those?
Some things are allowed with a building permit, and those are specified in the zoning bylaw. There's a whole series of scenarios that are described, along with some pictures that describe certain situations.
Yeah.
And some things are allowed just to go with a building permit, and then other things trip the threshold that sends them to us for a special permit. Mm-hmm. And that is a discretionary special permit, and the criteria that we have is what I said, that we need to make a finding that what's proposed is not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than the existing nonconformity.
Yeah.
And that's straight from state law.
Okay.
So our bylaw says the same thing the state law says.
Okay. Thank you.
So hopefully we'll get our feet wet with some of the other ones before we get one of these, especially a controversial one.
Yeah. That'd be nice.
It would be. It would be. So we're just going to have to wait and see what comes in. If it's a site plan review, say for a solar, probably Carrie and I will get the application. We'll give it a case number. Carrie will start a file on it, hard copy file. And I will, through email, and we can do this over email. It's not a violation of the open meeting law. I will let you know about the case. will make the application materials available to you to look at. You'll have the address. Sometimes we may go out there as a zoning board to look at it. Other times we could visit the site individually. So you'll be pretty familiar with the case, and then we'll have a meeting and we'll talk about it with the applicant there. That's site plan review. There's no public hearing involved in that.
Right.
It's just us working with the applicant.
So in each case, though, whether we go individually or as a group, all three of us should lay eyes on every site plan review, the location itself.
That's best practice. Yep. Yeah, to actually visit the site.
I would think so. Yeah.
Now, if it's a special permit, I'll do a similar thing. You'll have the application materials. We will probably do a site visit ahead, but then the first meeting that I'll try to schedule will be the public hearing. We have to schedule a public hearing within 65 days of getting an application for a special permit. So we're a little bit under the gun, but it's, that's a lot of time. So the first time we meet on that, it will be the public hearing, but we will have had the application materials. We will have had an opportunity to visit the site, and we'll have the public hearing, and the applicant will present, and if they have consultants, they'll present. We'll be able to ask questions. We'll open it up to the public. We'll hear what the public has to say. Sometimes we will extend the public hearing if necessary to get more information. It depends. Then after that, the public hearing will be closed, and then a 90-day decision clock starts. So we have 90 days to make a decision and render it and put it in written form. So that checklist that I sent you guys 2 checklists.
Yeah.
The long one with 20 steps, that's special permit. There's a lot of steps. Some of them are things we do. Some of them are things the applicant does. Some of them are things the town clerk has to do. But that's that's a good indication of what's going to happen in that process in those 65 and 90-day periods.
Yep.
And
does this mean, so do we have standing meetings, or the meetings are scheduled based on the applications that come in?
The nice thing about this board is we're strictly a regulatory board. I mean, we may get involved in zoning bylaw amendments if there's something that interests us. But mostly we meet when there's work to do, when there's a case before us.
Okay.
When we're deliberating or having a hearing, that's when we meet. And yeah.
Okay.
And we're in the doldrums right now for some reason. There hasn't been anything in quite a while. So
jinx us.
Yeah, really quiet, Jeff.
So and I sent you another checklist of what we do with site plan review. It's simpler. Site plan review is not governed in state law. We do it under our home rule powers. So you can make that up exactly as you wish, and it's all spelled out in our zoning bylaw how that has to go. And the checklist is just a distillation of our zoning bylaw, and so the steps that have to be done. So there we go. It's probably going to be a learn as you go process. The other thing I wanted to talk about in organizational matters is we really do need an alternate or two.
Yeah.
Because we can have a meeting with only 2 members to chat. We can do a site plan review with only 2 members because that's a 2 out of 3 vote. But a special permit, we can't do anything with a special permit without a full board of 3. In fact, we can't approve it without all 3 voting in favor of it. If 2 out of 3 vote in favor of it, it's not approved. And if there's 2 people at the meeting, you just can't even do any business on a special permit. So I think we need to all 3 of us think about other candidates that might be suitable and talk to them. And I'm going to try to keep it in front of the select board.
Yeah, I'm going to give that some serious thought because I really want to get another body or 2 to join us.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, we have.
I'm sorry. Is there any situation where you would disqualify yourself from participating?
Yes. There's a conflict of interest law in Massachusetts that has certain criteria. If it's a family member, that's the applicant. If you have a financial interest, what about the financial interest in what's going on? If you are a categorical abutter, and abutters are defined in statute, it's direct abutters and abutters to those abutters within 300 feet. It's anyway, if you're one of those, then you need to disqualify yourself. So if it's your next door neighbor, definitely. Or if it's one separate and you happen to be within 300 feet of the parcel, then you need to recuse yourself. That's when we need the alternates, when people just can't participate for one reason or another.
Yeah.
And the nice thing about Zoning Board of Appeals alternates is they can do anything. They can fill in at a meeting, they can do a site plan review, they can do a variance, they can, anything we do, the alternates can participate in. That's not true with the planning board. All the planning board alternates can do is special permit. And again, that's a quirk in state law. And,
so do they have to have participated in all of the meetings or everything that goes on around the special permit to be able to participate?
Yes. Yep. There is such a thing called the Mullen Rule. And what Mullen Rule says is you can miss one meeting or one hearing if you're on a special permit. And as long as you make it up by watching the video or attesting that you read all the minutes, you can make up one meeting under the Mullen Rule. But otherwise, you have to participate in everything.
So to be clear, if someone is willing to come on as an alternate, they would need to attend every meeting they possibly could, just like we would as the 3 regulars for everything that comes up. It's not like we wait on, we see if we can do it and then call them in only if one of us can. You know, it's not like that.
Yeah, I believe that alternates that have attended all the meetings can drop in on these special permits at any time if necessary. Say you go out sick with something that prevents you from participating and we're halfway through a special permit. If that alternate's been participating all the while, they can jump in because they've attended all the hearings.
Yeah. Okay.
The planning board has one alternate that comes to all the meetings, stays up on what we're doing, and another alternate that's happy to be an alternate but doesn't come to the meetings. Is ready to drop in if necessary, if asked, but doesn't come to the meeting. So you hope you get interested enough alternates that will attend.
They want to be there, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, anything anybody else wants to chat about? It's going to get a lot more fun and a lot more interesting when we actually have a real case, a real site, an applicant to talk to.
Yeah.
I actually have a question for Carrie. Do you know, I had asked them if they would print me out a hard copy of the bylaws. Do you know if they've done that?
No, I haven't. Who did you email?
Well, I asked and then they said the town clerk would do it. But I haven't talked to Grace yet, so to find out if she did or she didn't, so.
From my understanding, no, she has not, but I could do it on Thursday. I don't know where it is in the office yet, but I could go locate it and probably copy and have it aside for you.
Thanks.
No problem.
It's a good idea, Mary. I was prepared to print my own, but if that's something that's available, certainly I wouldn't mind picking up a copy as well from the clerk.
Yeah, I can print out too.
Okay.
There's color maps as well and different things. And it's much easier, I've found, to have my zoning bylaw right here in hard copy form and be flipping through it and looking for things on a Zoom meeting rather than having to minimize the screen and go find it electronically.
Yeah. No, I'm envying your nice little notebook there too. You know, it's all kind of bound and it looks really easy to use. So that sounds like a way to go.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so I can talk to Grace and see if she can help me out, and then I can make copies and I can put them in envelopes for you to pick up if you'd like.
Thanks, Carrie. Appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem.
I guess I also wanted to ask, this seems like a good time to start using a dedicated email address for this particular business. I mean, I did go on Google and set up, you know, the formula that you know the town gives you for serving on a board. Would that be your inclination too, Jeff, just to kind of go with another email other than one of my personal ones for this?
I have not done that, but I know some planning board members have, because it suits them, and that's just fine.
Okay.
So the recommendation from Conservation Committee was that you have your own. So if there was ever a question and somebody wanted to pull all your records, you're not pulling your personal.
Right.
Yeah, there you go.
Stuff.
Yeah.
My question really was, if I have one for that, do I need to have one for here? Because there were no more town Shutesbury available. So I set up.
You already have a Concom one.
I have a Concom one, but it's not a town one. I set it up, same thing, Gmail, but all the Concom just goes through that one.
So Carrie, what's your, we used to have it to where somebody just typed in ZBA, Shutesbury, it would go to all of us automatically. I know planning board is set up that way. If you type in planning at shutesbury.org, it'll go to all the planning board members. Should we have that here?
Most likely. So I'm not sure how to set that up. I know planning board is, so I'm assuming I can probably talk to either someone on the talk to someone about getting that done. So that way any emails that get sent to the ZBA email should be sent to all of you. Yeah, I think that's a good idea because sometimes I'll see emails of people asking like inquiries that I don't know the answer to, and I'll try to send them. This is also a good like segue, is that if you do use your personal email and it gets really full like quickly, if I try to send something to you, it just bounces back to me because it'll say your inbox is full. So that's also another good reason to have another email.
Yeah. Well, I would say, yeah, if you're prepared to do that, Carrie, well, I'm ready to just kind of say, yeah, I think the formula is simple. It's just your last name, right? Plus whatever the Shutesbury formula is for the rest of the address. Could you start using that right away for me? And maybe Jeff, you could too, Mary.
Okay. Yeah. Carrie, I think I'll set up a separate one from zoning board. So I'll set that up and send it to you.
Okay. Yeah, once you set up the email, just send me an email to ZBN just saying, hey, this is the new email I'll be using, so that way I know.
Okay.
Okay.
So one other thing, open meeting law, we have to be cognizant of. I mean, really what that in the 3-member board, 2 out of 3 is a quorum. So we can't speak outside of meetings on substantive issues. Like after a field visit, John and I can't be John about what we think about the site and whether it's a good project or a bad project and talk like that. And
That's deliberation.
And then do it again at a meeting. So we really, the planning board with 7 members, we have much more freedom to do that among members. But we can't do it at all as a zoning board. Same thing with the select board in town, 3 members.
Yeah.
So we have to watch our substantive conversations that we have between meetings. We can do scheduling and administrative type stuff and arrange field visits and who can make it and where we're going to meet and all this kind of stuff and talk about dates for meetings. We can do that as much as we want. But when we get into substance, it has to be at a meeting.
Does that mean, Jeff, that even if we were to have an alternate or 2, it still would any 2 together, or does that change the arithmetic?
It's always a 3-member board.
Okay.
The 2 alternates are just kind of out there waiting in the wings to become one of the 3.
Got it.
If necessary.
Mm-hmm.
The alternates really don't increase the size of the board. Still a 3-member board.
Yeah, got it.
Yeah. So, and you know, this gets really important if a case is contested and people are looking for legal reasons to challenge what we've done. If we've had those ex parte conversations, that can really mess us up. So we have to be careful about that.
So does each one of us fill out these checklists separately then, or do we together fill out one checklist?
The way Linda Ava Scott did it was she had the checklist and she would keep filling it out and reminding the board where we were in the process. We'd also make the checklist available to applicants. I think with any of these permits, you guys should probably have a checklist right beside you at your desk. Print one out, and then you can follow as we go down the list and keep track of where we are. But I think Carrie should probably keep the list because she'll be aware of when something comes in and the dates and whatever. Carrie, you've got your hand up. Is that a hand?
Yeah, I had it up earlier. You kind of summarized what I was gonna say, but yeah, during this year, I think ZBA did 2 special permits and 1, I believe, site review.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, during that time, I was mainly just me with a checklist. But I do think it's a good idea just to have them, just so you know, like the process and the timelines and such. It is helpful.
Mm-hmm.
So do we have anything else to go over this evening from anyone?
No, this was already helpful getting me started anyway.
Good.
Yeah, I think it answered the questions I had too, so.
Yeah. You guys will learn fast once we get going in real cases. So, all right.
I guess, can I have one more question? Do you have an example of of a written response to something, that just so we can see what one would look like?
I do. I've got many of them.
Okay.
Site plan review, special permit to. Okay,
Yeah, I find that helpful too. We could,
I'll send you guys an example of a site plan review and a special permit. Another thing I did with the planning board and the zoning board is I drafted all the permits. So I have them all on my computer, and I'll find some good examples and send them out.
Okay, thank you.
appreciate it.
Okay, so if there are no one else has anything else to say, I will look for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay. That's from Mary.
Okay, so motion made by Mary. Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? Then we shall vote.
Aye.
Mary, what say you?
Aye.
John, what say you?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. I think with these Zoom meetings, I need to call the roll on votes.
So,
Carrie, is that still true? I think
Sorry, I was muted. Yeah, for the most part, for for planning board and ComCom, usually kind of do like a roll call for votes.
And just adding, we're closing the meeting at 7:50.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, everybody.
very good.
Thank you.
When next we meet, we'll have something to talk about.
Exactly.
Okay.
In the meantime, nice to meet all of you. Take care.
To meet you. Thanks, Carrie.
Bye now.